Yeah, well, my third Heat of the Night is you know how we have that rule that's no Heat of the Nights on Divas?
Right.
Mine isn't necessarily on Divas, but it's about Divas. It's not on the Divas themselves, but it's the way that they've been used.
Right.
Tonight, we had the Divas champion in a match where the entrances to the match lasted longer than the match itself, and the champion got pinned due to a distraction followed up by a roll-up in about a minute and a half.
Yeah.
And the reason that this is a Heat of the Night for me is because of NXT. Because NXT has shown us that you can put on a minute or 2 minute squash match without anybody looking weak. You can have divas look strong to the point that they don't get beat by a roll-up after a minute and a half. And you can have divas booked in a way where they matter, where they're over, and where they're one of the parts of the show that people are looking forward to without needing them to take their clothes off.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the main reasons why I love NXT, because they celebrate, and yes, I will say celebrate with the utmost confidence, women's wrestling. Some of the bouts we have seen for the NXT Women's Championship since the title's inception, Ashton, I think you could stack them up really against most wrestling matches just in general, male on male or female on female or whatever, and you know they can rise above that challenge. But in WWE on the main roster, which is supposed to be a promotion, right? That's the whole and see that's really the irony of this whole thing. The only reason NXT exists is it is like a talent farm. You know, you groom these guys so they can come up and service the main roster. So you think,
but as it turns out, the main roster only ends up servicing them.
Exactly. You know,
they become a cog in the system. They get treated just like everyone else. I absolutely despise the way that the main roster treats NXT call-ups. I mean, look no further than the Ascension tonight. But really, I mean, if you want to pile on, look at Emma, look at Paige. Paige is the single most over woman in the company right now, and she was accompanying Natalya to the ring tonight as a secondary person, and she's wrestling against the Divas champion in a non-title match on a secondary show tomorrow night. It makes no sense whatsoever, and it's just, I don't want Charlotte or Sasha Banks to get quote-unquote called up to the main roster, because I know that they're just going to get lost in the shuffle. If they do ever get on TV, it'll be in a minute and a half match where they lose to a roll-up, and I just don't want that for any of them.
I don't either, and it scares me. And let's be honest here, and I hate to get on my pulpit about this, but, I mean, why exactly was Paige accompanying Natalya? Because it all comes back to Total Divas. Which, let me just say this right now, I've come to this conclusion. Anybody blaming Paige or thinking a certain way about Paige for joining the Total Divas cast, I can't even really blame her, to be honest, because I think that's the only reason she was in this spot and may potentially be a future contender for that Divas title, because, I mean, really, to them it's just about those main roster women losing matches in a minute and a half to roll-ups, and, you know, not even really athletic contests, but the big thing is, they get to be on a reality TV show. You know, it sucks the sacrifices you have to make.
And that's another thing. That all kind of also comes back to my problem with champions losing, but not losing the championship.
Right.
Like, Natalya technically did beat the champion tonight. She should be the Divas champion. The idea of a championship, and this I tried really, really hard not to compare this show to Wrestle Kingdom 9, and I think I succeeded, but the one thing that I really took away from Wrestle Kingdom 9 wasn't even something that happened on the show. It was something that Jim Ross said. Why would somebody want to go after a championship that isn't as prestigious as every other champion or any other championship in your company? Why would somebody want a championship that isn't held by the best person in that division? Why would anybody care about beating Nikki Bella for the Divas Championship when Natalya just proved that she's better than Nikki Bella?
And see, that's why when we're putting it within that context, Ashton, I'd have to think, by all accounts, Charlotte looks like a better, you know, NXT Women's Champion than Nikki Bella does a Divas Champion, because in the context of a one-on-one matchup, Charlotte, you know, has a much higher success rate than Nikki Bella, apparently, losing to roll-ups and this and that. And even when she does lose, I guarantee you it takes a hell of a lot more than a roll-up to beat somebody like Charlotte down in NXT. It's ridiculous. I mean, it goes all the way back to those sentiments expressed by Brock Lesnar when he didn't like that Rock was going to get his win back on a live event, not even a pay-per-view or anything, but a live event. And he said, well, I shouldn't be the champion. If The Rock's going to beat me, why do I have this belt? The best person, the best performer should be the champion.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm glad you and I both kind of feel that way because, you know,
I mean, heck, dude, we don't even need to talk about Wrestle Kingdom 9 because if we're really looking at it in perspective, that was New Japan's WrestleMania. So it's unfair to compare that to a random episode of Raw.
Right.
But let's look at the episode of New Japan TV the following night or 2 nights later when Hiroshi Tanahashi got pinned by AJ Styles. But here's the bugaboo. It was in a tag team match and it took multiple people to do it. So AJ technically, yeah, he pinned the champ, but it wasn't a one-on-one setting where he could clearly prove that he was the better man and deserved to be the champion.
Yeah, that's, again, bringing it back to NXT, you know, keeping the circle revolving around. That's how I feel like they handled Adrian Neville so brilliantly, because I think whenever he ate a pinfall from, like, Tyson Kidd or somebody pursuing his belt, it was always in a tag team match until ultimately, you know, at NXT TakeOver R Evolution, he dropped it to Sami Zayn one-on-one.
Dude, NXT TakeOver R Evolution was the first time Adrian Neville lost a singles match in 2014.
Yeah. That's how you protect your champion, though. Like, that's how you get it
See,
done.
I'm not even looking at the champion themselves. I'm looking at the championship, the title, what it represents. That's how you protect that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I really wish that WWE would have taken notes not only from Wrestle Kingdom 9, you know, while we're on that subject, but certainly the booking philosophy, the creative philosophy of NXT, you know, making their championships matter. And we've talked about this in the past, you know, the reigns of each champion, you know, and the defenses they have and everything else. If even one main roster champion kind of represented that and those ideals, I would be far more invested in their championship. In fact, really, the only person who I think really does that, if we're being fair, is probably Rusev with the United States title, and Brock too, but for different reasons. And yeah, it's just a shame that the women here, you know, again, bringing it back, just get shortchanged, and the only way Paige can get back in the championship picture is by making this association with Natalya, and on a grander scale, Total Divas. Just really sucks.
Yeah. Okay, I think I'm a little bit calmer. So, unless you have anything else to say that you want to get out of the way before we review this show, I'm ready to move on.
No, absolutely not, man. I'm really glad we talked this out. So with that said, let us get into very quickly our Smackdown recap.
Oh yeah, that happened.
Yeah, it did. Again, the one thing that, you know, bothered me, we had Bray Wyatt versus Eric Rowan, which is a shame too, because I actually liked a little bit of the story they were kind of telling in this match. Bray, you know, yelling at Rowan, you know, don't you remember me? Oh, you remember me? I'm your father, and you know, things like that. So they're playing on that history. At least Eric Rowan and Bray Wyatt were aware, because it didn't seem like anybody else was to throw this match away on free TV. And then it had influence on the finish, where Eric Rowan's feeling remorseful. He goes to hug Bray. Bray catches him in the Sister Abigail, and you know, he gets the win. You know, and then Bray cut a promo saying, you know, if I'm willing to do that to my own son, just imagine what I have in store for you, Dean Ambrose. So I like that.
Can I just say, to me, the most entertaining thing about the entire episode of SmackDown was J&J Security following Edge and Christian around and acting like their bosses.
Yeah, that was pretty comical. You know, J&J Security, I've really warmed up to those two guys. It's a great comedy act.
Jamie Noble's voice alone makes him a great comedy act.
It really does. It really does. Roman Reigns versus Big Show. I'm sorry, you know, I might as well say it again for Raw here, because they had another match tonight. I just don't care about these two together. And it's funny because I said on Bleat Off tonight, Ashton, I think Big Show is capable of some really excellent heel work. Like, surprisingly.
Did you wait? I'm sorry. I don't want to cut you off, but you actually said Roman Reigns versus Big Show. It was Ryback.
No, Roman Reigns and Big Show, I thought they had a match this past Friday. Was it Ryback?
It was Ryback.
Wow, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because the Russian flag appeared.
Oh, but you know what? You know what? Was it? Am I thinking of Roman Reigns versus Rusev? Didn't that happen on this show too?
Roman Reigns versus Rusev was the main event, and then we got Roman Reigns versus Big Show tonight.
Oh, okay, yeah, and then why I'm thinking Roman Reigns and Big Show in a match on Friday is because Big Show did a run-in. That's right. Okay, yep. My apologies. Yeah,
it was Ryback versus Big Show, and Big Show won because he hit the knockout punch on Ryback, and Ryback did not pass out, which was an amazing way to keep him strong, but he couldn't answer a 10 count. He ended up getting counted out, so Big Show won.
That is something I will say very quickly. If WWE is doing anything right now, it's how they're protecting Ryback. Because between that
he's
and
losing matches, but he's not looking weak in defeat.
Exactly, and he is losing matches that, given all the extraneous circumstances, you can understand why he'd lose them. So at least they're protecting him in the meantime, which I think is wonderful. Rusev versus Roman Reigns, which was the correct match, and he did do the correct taunt at one point in this match. But I know you and I, if we were still doing SmackDown reviews, I know you even told me that the way this match kind of finished would have been a heat of the night for you. Because Roman Reigns actually ended up getting a spear on Rusev, and it looked like he was going to actually end Rusev's streak until Big Show had a hand in, pulling Roman Reigns out and neutralizing all of that. So,
that was really frustrating.
And then, Big Show tries taking Roman Reigns out. Roman Reigns, of course, evades the assault, which, by the way, if I did have another nitpick, because really that was the only one heat of the night I had was the whole Wyatt family. But if I had a nitpick, Roman Reigns evading these beatdowns, man, is kind of getting ridiculous because he did it here and he did it again tonight. And I'm just thinking, God forbid we actually feel any sympathy for Roman Reigns. It's getting really annoying to me. But, that is what he does here. He gets like a modified apron drop kick, knocks off Big Show's equilibrium. I think he nails a Superman punch that sends Big Show over the table, and then he dumps the table on Big Show. So, yeah, those are the really big highlights of SmackDown here. I mean, anything else you want to say about this show, Ashton? Am I forgetting anything important?
Let's see. Usos and R-Truth defeated Gold Star and Adam Rose. We had a hilarious segment where Edge and Christian drew stuff on Triple H and Stephanie McMahon on their magazine cover. Yeah, I think that about covers it.